All right, welcome everybody to On Purpose Talk with Stanley
and Dandy.
Welcome.
Yes.
What a week we've been having. Today was the first time, this weekend actually was the first time I get one of my working gigs canceled. I was supposed to be at church, and we all had to reformat our church service and do everything online. And that was different. That was kind of it was a new experience, and also kind of freaky to see a little bit how this whole thing is unfolding. What are your thoughts about it this week? This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're talking about the coronavirus situation, and about your gig. Well, actually, it didn't get canceled. It got like
right. Well, yeah. I mean, but meaning, I'm not in front of an audience.
Right.
Which is something that just happens, quite
the
a bit.
original structure.
Yeah, and the governor just, about an hour or so ago, shut down all big format venues and concerts and anything with a large gathering. And my heart is going out right now with my colleagues, because as musicians, we're not in in the top part of that consideration. We're usually at the end or at the bottom. And so I know a lot of my musician friends who are getting canceled left and right, and I'm just like, I'm not at a worry, I'm just at a concern,
Yeah.
I concern for the person, I concern for the people, I concern for, what this means for a person's income, what this also means for those who can't rush as fast as they can to get supplies, and people are, I think it's exaggerating a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that, and these are my thoughts on it. I think that as much as we try to say, calm down, everyone, relax, don't fear, don't be scared. You know what? We're human. We're human, and we're going to have those moments, those weak moments where we're going to give in or cave into what we see in the news and whatnot. But this time around, I feel like it's pretty real what's happening. It's not yes, the media and I guess the news, they're always going to hype it up maybe a little bit more than what it is. But I think
there was some of that, though, right?
But I think this time is the other way around. A lot of them are trying to, some people are very realistic and they're like, okay, this is what it is. Some people are trying to make it look like, oh, it's no big deal and blah, blah, blah. And I actually think that they should be careful with how they say things, because it is real. It is a big deal for a lot of people. Like for the younger people, maybe it's not. Maybe they're going to be okay. They're going to, it's just a sickness. But what about the older people? And that's my thought on this. Like, we have to be aware, and we have to be think of others. We can't just think of one and say, oh, we're good, we're a young family, or we're gonna be okay, or we can't be like that.
Well, because even I find it a bit inconsiderate running up all the supplies.
Yeah.
And then we're not considerate to those who can't run up to those supplies as quick as possible. And we talked about this last night. You were telling me a story about we follow our community's Facebook page, right? And this lady, you could tell the story, the lady that works at Fry's, or it's a supermarket.
Yeah, there was a older gentleman, and he was looking for toilet paper.
And he had no idea what was going on.
No, because he says he doesn't have, social media. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't
watch TV.
He doesn't care for TV. He says he tries to live his, days like, he goes outside and just, he has a doggy, I think, and just very simple lifestyle. He feeds his dog. He feeds himself, I believe. I mean, he didn't put out his whole life out there, but it seems like he's a very simple man, and he's not really caught up with, news and none of that. So he had no idea. He walks into Target, and he just sees everything's empty. And he's, asking around, what's happening? And this one lady, she started telling him, he's like, that is so sad. He's like, I remember in the times of, I believe he said sometime a depression time he lived. He says everybody was trying to out for one another, not like everyone's just trying to hug up everything for themselves and their family and screw everybody. He's all like, that is so weird. But he said that, she said that he had tears in his eyes and he was just really sad. Another lady overheard, what was happening. She's like, I have some, toilet paper in my car. You want to join me out? Yeah, I'll be more than happy to give you half of what I bought. And they took off. And the lady that wrote the story, she said she was crying. She was crying because, a lot of emotions just came to her. Like, she started thinking about the whole thing and how it's affecting the elderly, how it's, this is like, it affects everybody.
Right.
And therefore we should think like that. We should think for everybody. We should,
right.
We shouldn't be so selfish. Like, oh, I'm going to make sure I have, yes, get the necessities and everything. I understand, but we also should think about others, and especially people like,
Correct.
like him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we think about this, supermarkets usually get supplies for enough for everyone, like commonly what gets, depleted and what needs to be in stock. And so I think if we would just do the normal grocery shopping, the normal stuff and look out for each other, I think everything will still start coming in a sense. I mean, shipments in a sense haven't stopped. What's stopping is that the depletion of supplies are gone so fast that the shipments are not coming in fast enough, right? Because, I mean, there's always a time for everything. No one serves for you. There's a whole bunch of supermarkets, and they're not just there for you. They're there for everyone. So everything gets distributed a certain amount. And if we get a little bit of greedy in that sense, this is where, rationality has to come out, I understand, okay, some of you are probably, taking work off for like 2 weeks or staying at home. And so this is a reality. You got to stock up. You got kiddos and stuff. But there's those who are like end of the world kind of stocking up. And it's kind of like, hey, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And, we're so populated where it's just getting, kind of overwhelming a little bit. There's also another story of a physician who's trying to get help for a family, right? Mm-hmm. And it'd be kind of cool to get her in here and maybe do an interview with her. We should reach out to her or something. I don't know. She's a physician and doctor here in town and also was trying to get help for the family. And the lack of testings for the CDC has been a little alarming and concerning because if you don't have any direct relation to any travels to China, they're not really giving testing priority to those people.
No, they dismiss you. And at first they said that was the case in the very beginning. But then after they realized that this virus, it can be transmitted, person to person. So once they realized that was happening, then they said, okay, well then we're going to start testing everybody. But the fact that they don't have enough test kits, that's what makes it hard. How are they going to test you if they don't have anything? So here you have a whole bunch of people going to the doctors because they feel symptoms or they feel sick. Some are just scared. And they're turning them around. They're like, well, we don't have any. We have to first get the test kits. And then we're going to, it's really crazy. And it's really frustrating for a lot of people because that tells me, and based on the story that we read, that tells me that there's a lot of people that are sick and they're, running around buying groceries and going everywhere. And those people are infecting other people. And then that's why, and that's how things get, out of hand. Therefore, this is why I think it is important that, right now the governor, right? He said, you know what?
We live in Arizona, so the governor of Arizona.
Yeah, he just pretty much said, you know what? No more gatherings of big amount of people.
Right.
Weddings, I think he even said.
Yeah.
Concerts.
I'm thinking of all my musician friends who do corporate gigs and do weddings, and this is a big one for them.
Yeah.
Because that's a big source of income, and also, obviously for the bride and groom who were thinking and planning and people who come from out of town. This is a very, very unique time for Arizona. And not unique, but this is the time where people get married because the weather is amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful outside, 70. Not trying to rub it into all my East Coast people. If there's any East Coast people watching us, probably just like my mom and your mom watching us. Just kidding. Anyways, so but
It's affecting everybody.
yeah, this is the time of year where all my musician friends stock up on all those corporate gigs because the summer comes in, the summer kind of gets down, and that's when it's the driest season here in town. And so I'm thinking of all of them. I'm thinking of all my colleagues and thinking of all of us, and that's a hard one,
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think this is also a time for us as humans to show our humanity.
And our faith.
What kind of person are you? Are you, people of faith who declare, that they're for people and they love people. This is where you show love. This is where you show kindness. I saw a picture, I think it was yesterday, of a lady and her son, spreading love by giving free toilet paper. I mean, these are the kind of things that gives me hope in people. It's the kind of things that makes me want to go, okay, there's good people out there, and they're not just looking out for themselves. This is in no way, don't take care of you and don't take care of your family, those you love, but also be considerate. Like go a little bit beyond the norm, of just thinking, you and your household and your needs and based off of fear.
Yeah.
And fear is a tricky thing, man. Fear can, I don't know why I called you man, but fear is a thing that can paralyze someone.
Yeah. I believe so. I mean,
I've seen fear like make people not even get ahead of life because of something like that.
Yeah.
Fearful, And so I think this is where, we can either act in caution or act in fear. And there's a fine line to it. And when you go over fear, then it becomes chaotic and stressful and anxiety. When you act with caution, I think there's more patience, more calmness, more of an observation, and you make decision based on what you're observing, what you think is correct, but you don't go based on emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
Make
it a little more rational, instead of taking, 10,000 rolls of toilet paper, maybe 20 will do.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Or those two big ones from Costco, which is the only reason why we have a Costco card. We go to Costco just for toilet paper and water. And that's been always our thing. Like, probably people always looked at us weird because that and the bones for the pups. And, right? We pay the membership just for that because that's the only one that we seem worth it.
Yeah. Well,
the
because
food is
we're a
just too
small
much.
family, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the three of us and the two pups. But, we didn't need so much food. The food were like we get just the right amount of ration. But, instead of getting getting 3 or 5 of those big ones, maybe two was enough.
I mean, it depends on the size of your family. I mean, if you have a big family, you might need more. But, I mean, if you can do with one, I mean, in one thing, there's a whole bunch. I mean, I know it lasts us, when we buy it, it's for like a few months, like a good,
It does, yeah.
So, I mean, now it's the time to think conservative. Like, you have to be a little bit more like, okay, I know it's not,
That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us, we live in the United States, first world country, and we take a lot of those things for granted.
We do.
I mean, how many times do we roll that thing up to swipe our butts? And we don't think about, I could always buy some.
Yeah.
And how this is like, maybe,
It's changing a lot of things for sure.
It's cool. It's funny that when I used to travel, I used to go to places where they used to charge. Like, so you go to public places, but if you want to do number 2, they charge for the toilet paper per sheet. The guy's handing it to you. The guy's standing there with the toilet paper. He's like the king of toilet paper.
What?
And
That's crazy.
I'm talking about like a lot of parts of Mexico, a lot of parts of Central America and South America, and I would see, you go to, you know me, I can't go in public places like that. So luckily I didn't have to go, but you have to tip the guy, and he gives you a roll, and depending, and it tells you right there how many sheets of toilet paper. I'm serious. Oh, that's a thing.
Wow.
That's a thing because, the toilet papers are, the bathrooms are bad. It doesn't seem like that's, it doesn't seem like that was placed by the gas company or whoever it was. I think it was just someone who would come. In Mexico, everyone, not just Mexico, Latin America, everyone works for something, for a tip. So, it's funny when I go to, Scottsdale and I see bathroom attendants. That's what that guy was. He's a bathroom attendant. And he got smart. Well, this public bathroom is so bad, there's no toilet paper. The company doesn't provide toilet paper because it's so bad.
Okay.
She goes, I bring the toilet paper, I'll provide it for you, but I make money.
But
he's not giving you the whole roll. He's giving you sheets.
Right.
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, wow.
So, that's a reality.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is at home. Now, I do have an experience with lack of toilet paper. Excuse me. One time I went to El Salvador, so this is where my parents are from. And I didn't go to visit. I went to do a concert, and we were doing a radio, we were doing radio press. And it was just one of those moments where I had to go to the restroom. And I don't know why we're talking about this, but I guess we are now. And so, one of my bandmates walked out of the restroom. I guess he had the same situation I did. Something we ate, obviously. And so I was like, oh man, I gotta go. And I go in there, and there's no toilet paper. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? So I walk out, and I'm like, there's no, mind you, I'm like 16, 17 this time, I'm new in the touring game, but I had never seen something like this. And I'm like, what is it? So I asked my friend, I go, dude, what did you use? He goes, dude, there's newspapers on top. I go, dude, you're a savage. Now, he had been to the country before, so he knew the protocol.
All right.
I had never been through something like that. I held it. I didn't go. There's no way I was going to wipe my butt. I held it pretty good. There's no way I was going to wipe my butt with no newspaper.
That's so crazy.
But, that's a reality
in
other countries. And I think of going back to being in the first world, we think about the waste that we have. Mm-hmm. Even maybe on your single wipe. I know this is nasty, but think about it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, these are the times that it makes you think about a lot of things. Like, how good we have it. And then now we have to, I even told you, babe, we're going to have to really measure ourselves with everything because, we always like to have stuff ready, on hand and, like the normal.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking of buying, a big amount. And we were running low on toilet paper ourselves.
We were, yeah.
Yeah, so we went and they were all gone,
yeah. I didn't know what the heck was going on, though.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they gone? That's weird. I didn't think about it, and I don't think it had been a thing where it started becoming a pandemonium.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it's a reality.
I think that's kind of when it started. Like, people just started assuming, we better start preparing or whatever. But the thing is that we weren't ready. And so, therefore, now we have to think, we have to just kind of chill. And also because we don't want to go out there and buy probably what somebody really needs. You know what I'm saying? We just bought a few and that's it. What if somebody else needs it more or, we're okay for right now.
Yeah.
But I think this whole thing is just, it's changing everybody. And and I always think like this, nothing ever stays the same, life changes, it's always, but everything passes. Everything shall come to pass too, and I know that there's so many stories out there and so many people that are afraid. And sometimes I was even telling you, how there's people that are afraid, but they try to pretend that they're not.
Right.
And they try to pretend they're okay. And I understand sometimes you need to have that attitude to just because for your family or for your friends or sometimes you're just trying to like look, funny and cute, but down deep inside, you are frightened. You are, and you know what? It's okay because we're human. Because like I said, there's going to be those times where we are going to feel a little, what can you do? You're going to feel like, and I think it happens to all of us. And then this is the time, like you said, to work on, on faith, to work on our character, like be optimistic. This is when it's actually an opportunity for us to not just be kind to others and to think for others, to show empathy for others, but to also, put our faith to practice. We talk about this, especially you and I, we are believers. We believe in God, and I think this is the time when we're like, all right, God, we know that you are for us, and not just for us that we are your children, but for everybody. I mean, God, and that's the thing that sometimes people feel like, well, we're not Christian, we're not, we don't have that relationship with God. So what does that mean? That we're not protected or that see, to me, this is all these thoughts that come in from all of this, and I'm praying for everybody. Like, I'm not just praying for, my family I'm praying for everybody, especially those that do not believe in God, because imagine that, where's their hope? Who can they trust? Who can they go to? Like if I get a little concerned, guess what? I can go to God, and I know God will bring us peace. And the Word of God talks about this peace that Jesus gives us, and it's that peace that surpasses all understanding, right? And we don't even understand it. We don't comprehend how it's even done, but we know that we have that with Him, right? So that is what's crazy about this whole thing, that in the midst of craziness and all this stuff, that we know that we can go to Him and He will give us His peace. But what about those that they don't know that they don't know that they can acquire and attain that peace that only Jesus can give you, So I pray for those people. I pray that in all those craziness, that they'll even probably think about God, and say, hey, God, if you're really real and if you can protect me, or if you can like make me have this peace, okay, I want to know who you are, what you're all about, Like, I think this is a time when we can like, speak into their lives. And I've never, and you know how I am, I think we both are like that. We never like to impose God on anybody. We really don't, because first of all, we don't feel we have to. God is God Almighty.
Right.
We do like to share stories sometimes, but we like to also make sure we think about everybody. We're not trying to come off as, we're better than you because we have God. No, that's not what it is. We're not better. We're all the same. The difference is that we have a Savior, and we know that when we're in trouble, we can run to Him, And it is a big difference in a sense, but at the same time, we don't, just because of that, shouldn't ever feel like, oh, we have it together, we're superior because of that. And I honestly, I'm going to be very honest. I used to, not too long ago, I used to dislike a lot of my brothers and sisters in Christ because of that attitude. I would see it a lot where there was this I understand we should walk in confidence, knowing who we are in God, but that doesn't mean we're superior. It doesn't mean that we're better and that we have all the answers and that nothing ever is going to happen to us. That is not true. And I think that is one of the reasons why I, my whole walk with not with God at all, but with, my brothers and sisters, or the church, which it's us, the church, but the building itself.
Yeah.
This is why I used to sometimes, shy away from this whole, setup or structure because of stuff like that. Like, and then not too long ago where I realized, like, what, regardless of how my Christian brothers and sisters are, they're still God's children. And if God loves them, and if He accepts them the way that they are, who am I? Like, if He loves them, then I love them. And I made that a thing, where I'm like, God, and I realized that, that behavior or my look on that was bad. And I said, God, forgive me, but help me. Help me to change my mind. Help me to see things differently, you know? But this is the thing, when a lot of this stuff is happening, where there's so much uncertainty happening right now in the world, this is when we can give, that word of encouragement to those that, they don't have it, to those that are feeling, pretty down or depressed about it, or, that they don't have anything. There's no hope. This is the time where we should really like you said, put ourselves out there and find a way to make them see, like, hey, it's gonna pass. It's just temporary. Yes, it's ugly what's happening. We're not gonna try to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's okay. It's just a virus. Right. Like a lot of people, oh, it's just like the flu. It's like that. No, right. It's different. Yes, the flu itself, it's bad, because it does kill people too. But this is something new, and every time there's something new, it's scary. It's different because no one really knows much about it. It's all kind of like everyone, like even doctors, are trying to like get a hold of it and understand what it does. Even in the autopsies that they're doing, they're trying to understand, like, is it going to even hurt them? You know what I'm saying? Because this virus is like, it's no joke. In the beginning, they didn't know if it was something that you were breathing, if it was airborne, or if they didn't, it's really all like pretty new.
Right.
So of course it's scary when something like that is new. And when you're hearing the news and when you're seeing all these people like dying and getting really sick.
What kind of encouragement can you tell someone in this time right now?
That they're not alone.
Who are fearful, who are afraid, who think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
What kind of hope can you give them?
That, if you've tried everything and you feel down, I get there's those that still don't feel they need God, or they feel like, we can only share what we know. I know my relationship with God, oh man, it makes a big difference. If it weren't for God, I probably wouldn't be here, So I can say this, if nothing else has worked, maybe therapy, maybe some people like to exercise, maybe some people like to do different things, but nothing is working, your mind is just set on this, try God.
Right.
Just try talking to him.
Now, there's a fear, right? I mean, if people stop doing what they have to do because everyone has to stay in, I mean, depression could rise.
Yeah.
And so, how can you focus your mind to get out of that,
right.
out of that rut? I mean, this is something that we didn't control. I mean, I didn't ask for events to get canceled. I'm sure my colleagues didn't. And I talk more in the musician realm because that's what I do, but I'm sure anybody who works, who have mouths to feed and bills to pay, which is all of us. I mean, we don't live in this world without paying some bills unless
right.
you have none of the material stuff and you're just a free roamer. But for the most part, any of us who have a place to stay and have bills and all that stuff, we have stuff, we got to pay for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's concerning. So your suggestion would be?
That, find hope. We, like I said, if nothing else is working, because I know that there's people that are trying to, just read a book, or for some it's fine. They're doing just fine. They're calm about it. They're doing different things. But for those that it just seems to be impossible, they can't focus. They're just going into panic mode. This is the time where why not give it a shot? Try God. Like if I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You already don't have a relationship with God. And if you try to speak to him and you feel like he's not talking back to you, but I'll tell you this much, God is real and he will talk back to you, Maybe not in the way that you want him to, maybe not with the answers that you want to hear, not, but he will talk to you. He is real.
He's willing to meet you where you're at,
Yeah.
in the time of your life where you're at, in the type of lifestyle you're at, and the way you're living your life. He's willing to meet you at that point.
Yeah.
And the conversation you're supposed to have with them is not this weird, preachy, pastory,
Nope.
elaborate. It's the way we're having a conversation, the way you have a conversation with just anybody else.
Yeah.
And just go, hey.
Yeah. Some people.
Start with, hey, God.
Yeah.
Why don't you just start with that?
Yeah.
Hey, God, here I am.
Yeah.
And just start with something like that.
Yeah.
That's the relationship with God that we're talking about. And it begins with something just like any other relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Any relationship starts with a conversation.
Yeah. Like
Her and I been together now for what? I'm trying to do the math in my head, but I don't remember. Was it 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
We started dating.
Yeah. Almost 13.
How we fell in love was conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship was built on conversation. If you go back to thinking to any loves you have, if you have a loved one with you, whether it's your spouse or just someone that you're dating, anything starts with a conversation for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Unless for some weird action, you're in a culture where you got married by, it was already decided for you, and that there's cultures like that.
Yeah.
But the relationship gets built upon a conversation, because that's when you start getting to know someone. And I've heard stories even of arranged marriages, when in the beginning there were two strangers who got married, and this was two strangers living together. And through the course of the year, I mean, then they're together for like 50 years. It's like, but that got solidified through a conversation, right? And God is the same way. God wants to solidify a conversation.
Yeah.
With you. He wants to establish contact with you. And what's crazy is that most of the times religions will point you to a building and a gathering place. But God points you to him. Mm-hmm. He points you to, for you by yourself as an independent person, to go and have that conversation and start that conversation with him. And at first it's weird. And at first it's awkward. But then you start realizing that there's so much in you that you need to ask and say. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to ask.
No.
Don't be afraid to say. Don't be afraid to express how you feel.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very high that he knows exactly how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And where you at in your life.
Yeah.
And I can't promise you freedom from coronavirus, but I can promise you freedom. Do you know the difference? Because this is where, we can get into this pretty deep. But a lot of people are like, oh, I'm looking for religion or God or something so I can get away, so that they can never harm me. But God brings us freedom in other ways that we don't think freedom is. Mm-hmm. That peace that passes understanding is peace in the midst of chaos. Mm-hmm. It's peace in the midst of when everything's chaotic. You're not chaotic. Your mind is not chaotic. Your heart's not chaotic. You're concerned. You probably hurt with those who hurt. You probably cry with those who cry, laugh with those who laugh. But you're not in a chaotic state. This is not, and it's unexplainable. Mm-hmm. And God brings that.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you God brings that. And so...
and I think too, I don't know why, but I feel like a lot of people stay away from God because they think it's not cool,
Well, there's a lot of things that are not cool.
Yeah. But I think a big factor is that, like, a lot of people are afraid to look weak, that you need, a higher supreme being,
Right.
Some people, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things out there. Some people are disappointed You know, some people were Christian as kids, and then they grew up in the church, they saw a lot of things happening, and then they blamed, without even realizing it, they blamed it on God without realizing that God had nothing to do with that.
Whether they did it with their mouth, they did it with their lifestyle.
It doesn't matter. Like they confuse things because, again, we're human, you know?
Right.
So I think a lot of it is misconception of what they think it should look like. Oh, if I have a relationship with God, I'm not going to look cool. Or if I reach out to him, I can't do a lot of fun things that I think that is not good with God.
Right.
You know, there's just like a lot of things why people stay away from God. And I'll tell you this much. I know what it's like to be without God. I tried it. I had a crazy lifestyle. And yeah, it apparently seemed like I was having fun, but I was in bondage. Like there was a lot of things inside of me, in my soul, in my spirit, that were dark, and that I was ashamed, you know, that I wasn't free. Like there was a lot of things in me that weren't real. And it's not until I came to God that I really started living free. It's not until I met him that I really realized what living for real meant. Like everything that I thought I knew, you know, I didn't know anything. And I don't want to sound like, oh, you need God to know everything. No, but honestly, I'm speaking from like what happened to me, you know, my relationship with God now. Another thing too is people have this misconception of like, oh, well, you're Christian, or you're good, you know, God is going to bless you because you're good. What? God does not bless me because I'm good. God blesses me because he is good. Like it has nothing to do with me. Like I still sin. I still do things. I still say a lot of things that I shouldn't say. I still think a lot of thoughts that I shouldn't think. But it doesn't mean that God is going to say, oh, stay away from me. I don't want to be near. No, God is saying, it's okay. God tells me, you know, I'm going to redeem you. You're going to be fine. Just keep trusting in me. Keep coming to me. You know, those are things you want to start shedding off of your life. Those are the things you want to get rid of. I'm going to help you. Depend on me. I'm going to help you. But see, it's a relationship. So I have to keep going to him. And every time I fall, and every time I make mistakes, and every time I have to come to terms with it. Like, okay, I messed up. I reacted in a weird way that was unnecessary, and I go to God. But see, I have someone that I can go, and I'm accountable. So I'm living this lifestyle now where, you know, I'm free because of it. I am free because I don't have to take everything in me, and I don't have to like, you know, because what happens is in life, when you start doing things that they're not right, they start adding up, you know, they bottle up inside of you. Before you know it, this is why you feel so dark. And so like, you feel like you need to do more things in order to feel, because you're trying to get out of that mess. Do you see what I'm saying? You are held captive, not because anyone's holding you captive, but because of your behavior, the things that you do and the things that you hide, you know, that they're not so pretty. But when you come to God and he makes you realize, like, you know, you're going to get better. Like he's not pounding on you. He's not like, oop, that's wrong. Oop, no, he's not like that. Like a lot of people think God is like that. He's not. Like he is so patient. Like you talk about patience. Oh my, he is like, the definition of God is love, patience, everything that we've talked about, you know, last, 2 podcasts?
Yeah.
You know, you read all that, and to me, it's just that God, that right there, God, he's everything. He's that and more, you know, he's like, and we only have like the desire of wanting to know a little bit of what all that means. That's where we are, you know, but it's okay as long as we keep, you know, searching and seeking for that. So our lifestyles and the way that we carry ourselves in life and everything, it's based on decisions, right? So it's ultimately what you want. You want to be a good human being. you want to have all those things that you need, who better than God, who is good, to teach us that, to show us that? You know, this is why I talk about God more based on relationship than, oh, you need God in your life. Yeah, we all need God, but it's important that we have a relationship with God because of this. Because then we can become a little better, because we can, we can grow. And it doesn't mean that we're, superior, or that we're, oh, if you don't have God, or if you don't have a relationship with God, I can't hang out with you. It's not true. That is not true. This is like a lot of stuff that goes through my mind with stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is where our friends that they don't know where to turn, where to go, where to, okay, maybe you don't want to mention God, maybe you just want to be there for your friends. That's perfectly fine too, because it's all part of it. Goodness flows out of people, not because we are good, but because He is good, because that's what He tries to, place in our heart. He dwells with us. It is Him. Everything that we sometimes think like it's us, or that we take credit for, I'm sorry, it's not. It's Him. So, but if we can do any of that good to people, pretty much you're seeing God. Pretty much you're seeing God working, because we're vessels, we're instruments, we're His children. And in the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Caring for one another, loving each other, reaching out, So this is what I know. You asked me one question and I just went on and on and on.
You're fine.
But
she's making up for all the podcasts you didn't talk.
Yeah, there you go. I
love it because, I think when it comes to God, you're very passionate about it. And so you and I can sit down and talk about this, and people think church people have to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. And you're like the least church people person I know in a sense. But you're such a strong prayer person, and which I look up to, because I'm like, I don't know how you do it. It's just something I've seen since day one with you. And it's incredible, because I see how your relationship with God has grown, and the stuff He teaches you, and the stuff that you learn. And, you share with me, and I go, man, that's so spot on. It's like, it is spot on. And what we've come to learn is that I have a device, I have a computer here. It's an Apple computer. When it messes up, well, who do I go to? I've gone to third-party authorized Apple stuff, and sometimes at the end, I have to go back to the maker. A lot of us say that God is our creator. We say, God made us, and we mention and stuff like that. But, at the end of it all, are you going back to your maker? Are you going back to your maker to, for guidance? Where did it go wrong? Well, why isn't it not functioning properly? And that could be anything in your life, your relationship, your mind, your heart, your soul, the way you treat others, the way you work with others, the way you see life, and the way things are not functioning in your life. At the end of it all, you got to go back to your maker, because only your maker knows what you need. And I think that's where the relationship comes in handy. I'm a musician, and some of my gear, I have to take it back to the maker for my gear to function properly, because only the maker knows exactly why he put a certain pickup, or a certain way he made this instrument, or a certain way he made an interface, or he or she, obviously. And so if you have that relationship with your maker, you'll understand how you function, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's what do we want to leave everybody with today?
that because, I know that, I mean, we have like even people that probably stay away from us because we have God as our God. But I want to say this, that because of this whole thing, coronavirus, it's a virus that,
Pandemic.
pandemic that we can't see. We cannot see it, but it happens and it affects people and it touches people. I want to make you think like the opposite of that is God's grace. God's love, God's peace. Like you can't see it. Just like coronavirus, you can't see it, but you know that it affects you. You know that it can be a powerful thing in you. So that's pretty much, if anything, that's how you can view God. Like, okay, you can't see him. A lot of people are like, well, how can I believe in him if I don't see him? Well, then it's kind of the same thing if you think about it. God is spirit, but he is alive and he is real. And if anything, think about that. Just like how there's viruses and there's just like things that can affect you that you cannot see, but they're real. It's just like that. That's how God's love is too. And that's how, you get to know him, you get to know him through that, through seeing that he is real, even if you can't see him. And that's what faith is. Faith is something you cannot see, but you believe, you choose to believe. And then when you start realizing, that this relationship that you can have with God, and it starts becoming, because it's a process, like anything, like Stanley was saying, like any relationship. It's amazing. It's amazing what can happen. It's amazing how, I can sit here and tell you guys all these stories and all this, but it's you. In the end of the day, you have to make that choice. In the end of the day, or not. You can try and find other ways to attain the peace or whatever it is that you're maybe you're perfectly fine. Maybe you don't need God this time around. I don't know. I can't decide for you. I can't think for you. I know that with me, and this is me, I know that it is him. It is him that sustains me. That the reason why I'm even walking and breathing is because of his goodness, and it's all because of him. I honestly believe that. I truly do. And so, whatever you're thinking that or that you've already set your ways and your judgment or your, sometimes, don't be so sure. Sometimes it's okay to think a little bit different, to say, probably I'll give it a shot. Why not? Got nothing to lose. You're going to be, we're all going to be at home for quite a bit right now. It seems like, that's where it's going. And these are the times to really start thinking about stuff like that, things that are important to you. And I guarantee you that anything that is good, it's going to have a good aftermath. I'll kind of share some. I don't know why this came into my head, but I'll share something real quick. I usually hear people saying, like friends or family, that they're always like, oh yeah, so and so is going to get married and she's going to get married to a good guy, and I always think like, that's amazing, because a good guy it's a good thing. He's going to show her a good life. But I always think, what a difference when somebody tells you, yeah, he's a godly man, but then that gets me really excited, because I'm like, wow, he's going to show her God. He's going to direct her to God. To me, that I never used to see things that way. I promise. I never did. I used to think like, what? Good is good. Good is perfect. Like, what is wrong with that? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I realized, the need that I had once for God, and I think about it now, like, wow, like, whether you want to see it or not, we all need God. We do. We were made with that need in us, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to see it or not. That's just the way that our Creator made us. So.
Well, let's end with that. That's awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned. We got more episodes coming up.
Yeah.
Be encouraged.
Yes.
Please be encouraged. Find hope. Pray. If you haven't prayed, pray.
Yeah, and if you guys need prayers, send us a message, and we'll be more than happy to pray for you guys. Or, or if you guys have any needs, and if there's somebody that needs anything, let us know. We're here. We would love to help in any way that we can. Reach out to us. We'll be more than happy.
Yeah. Definitely. That's what we're here for. Trying to build a community with you guys, and let's talk to each other. Let's communicate. Let's be honest with each other. Let's be humans with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the best humans we can be. All right, guys. Be safe out there.
Yes.
Wash your hands.
Yes.
Don't touch your face if you haven't washed your hands.
Yeah.
And avoid large crowds in the meantime, just for now.
Yeah.
Just while you can. So, all right, guys. Have a good one. Peace.
Peace.